Good morning, everybody. Excited to be speaking at Gamification Europe 2020. And I'm going to tell you a story about the hunt. So, oh, this is interesting. Now I have to find that. Okay. Yes. Hope you can see my shared screen right now. Just checking something. Yes. Okay, that's great. Okay, this is me. I'm an experienced designer and have been for the last 15 years or so with my own company, which is called Living Story. We're serious about games. And there's a start to that story. It's not that I started doing this day or the day before. And the story I'm telling today is about that. In the last 15 years, I've developed and played over 50 different kinds of formats with groups of people. And we learned an awful lot about playing this with people and with teams and team dynamics. We started out doing a lot of games just for company outages, team building, and over the course of time, we use them far more for learning. And within companies, we made a more serious game. We applied gamification, and now we design all our formats using learning. So my day-to-day job is to create games that have impact in the real world somehow. So that led up to the point that yesterday, literally yesterday, and some of you may have seen this because I posted this on LinkedIn, I was with a client, and when he left, this is literally what he said. I'll try to find out if you can use one of our nuclear bunkers for the game. So this got me all shivering yesterday, and I realized once more that this is my job. I get to create a lot of excitement in games where eventually we'll do stuff like this, create games in underground nuclear bunkers. There's a big story behind why I did do this and how we do this, but it's just to give you a great indication. So in the last 15 years, over the years, we developed a structure for making interventions like this. It's called the Game-Based Learning Design Wheel. We also give training about that, but it's all rooted in the story that starts 15 years ago, a story about disruption, which is the theme of this conference, and it's a story about employee engagement. So I'll take you back to the year 2003. In that time, I was a trainer. I was training retail sales staff. And I worked for two companies. One company was a training company and the other was a mystery shopping company. So you can imagine what I did. I was, from a day-to-day, I was standing in front of groups doing a 2-day training, for instance, about sales. I was training mostly young people working in stores. It was 2003. We still had a lot of stores and shopping streets. That's where you bought your stuff, on shopping streets. And I had to train these people in how to engage with customers and how to greet them and how to have a great sales conversation. So 50% of my company, I would do training, and in the other 50%, we would do mystery shopping. So I trained them how to sell stuff, basically. And then we put in mystery shoppers to visit stores throughout the country, and they would buy something, and they will fill out a report on how they were doing in the meanwhile. So back to 2003, from a day-to-day, I was training young people in how to sell stuff and how to engage with customers. And I really thought I was doing my very best. You know, I was training them. I was using a lot of humor. I showed videos. Well, I really thought it was fun and interactive, and I really thought and hoped they learned something. But Meanwhile, I asked those pupils, those students in my training, about their mystery shopping reports. And I always got one of these two answers. If they were visited by mystery shoppers and they had a very high score, meaning that, well, somebody visited them and they filled out a report and they were doing well, they had an 8 or 9, they had a good score. Then they would tell me, yes, so we had a mystery shopping report and we're doing great. We don't need to change anything. The other reaction would quite often be, yeah, we had a mystery shopper and yeah, we got a very low score, but actually that's because of the fact that it was Saturday and it was very busy and only the weekend workers were there. There were all kinds of excuses. So mystery shopping really didn't have that much impact. We could only measure what they were doing. But I asked myself, if I train these people, then surely it should be the fact that after my training, they would do better. So I looked up the results of the mystery visits of these people, and there was no evidence whatsoever that me training them had any effect. I couldn't see it in their results. For instance, if they would greet more people or were more engaged or sold more. It was not a result of my training. So that was interesting. So after a time, I thought, well, mystery shopping only, it's one moment where you measure something. My training didn't seem to have any effect. So after a time, I was not very, I was not very happy about what I was doing and the effect of it. So at one time, I was training the retail sales staff of Halfords. And Halfords, they are shops and they sell car parts and bikes. And well, people work there, tend to be between 20, 25, work there from day to day, not very intrinsically motivated. They're just, this is what they do. They care more about bikes and car parts than they do about customers. I would say in that time, that would be your average shop assistant, your retailer. And I trained them, had the very same effects. I thought my training was doing well, but it had no effect. And after a time, I was really fed up with this. Mystery shopping didn't have any effect, and surely my training didn't have any effect. And it was at that time that I went up to my boss. I had been doing this for 3 years in a row. I stepped to my boss and I said, I am not training these salespeople anymore. I'm done training these people. And he looked a bit cynical when I told him this. He said, do you have an alternative then? And I said, I might have. And that resulted in the program that I launched a few months later called The Hunt, where I actually refused training in mystery shopping. So what I did, I presented this plan to the managers at Halfords, and also they were quite cynical, but they allowed me to do this program, which was actually a game. I asked them to do a game instead of training. And back then, 2003, it was quite a challenge. But on the other hand, it was 2003. The economy was doing quite well. And, about anything was possible. So they allowed me to do this. So at one time, I got all 100 shop managers together in a conference room, a real one, not a digital one, a real one. I got them together, and in the morning they had a speech of their managers on how they were doing. And halfway in the afternoon, the house lights went down. It was dark in the room, and they were shown a video. And it's the video I would like to share with you right now. And I think I can do through the share video. Is there audio with the video? I'm not sure. Okay, awesome. I'll continue then. Awesome. Yes. So I presented this video to 100 shop managers. The house lights went up again after the video. And at the moment, mind you, it was still 2003. Everyone had a Nokia phone, not a smartphone. There was no mobile internet. But I did a text message bombardment. So suddenly one of their cell phones started going off and they had a text message. And I saw the first manager reaching for their phone, and all of a sudden, all over the rooms, phones went going off, and everyone reached for the phone, and it had one text: "The hunt has started right now." From that moment, I saw managers walking out of that room, contacting their own stores and updating them on what would happen. Because what would happen is this: for the next 3 weeks, all stores in the Netherlands, and there were about 100 stores, would be frequently visited by a mystery shopper. The mystery shopper could be anyone entering their store, big or tall, small, happy, grumpy. It could be someone familiar or not. Everyone entering your store could be a mystery shopper. Your aim working at Halfords was reveal the mystery shopper. And you could do this only in one way. 1, greet the mystery shopper. 2, actively approach the mystery shopper. And 3, have a conversation with them using a specific code word. And that code word would change every few days. So I set up a backend, an intranet site, not internet, intranet. They only had one computer, back of house, but it did have a leaderboard. It gave them hints on approaching mystery shoppers. It had a chat function, so stores could basically chat to each other and give hints, but they would also sabotage them. For instance, if this red-headed woman would be the mystery shopper and they revealed it, they would, of course, tell the other teams, yeah, it's a fat little guy, this mystery shopper. So there was a very high engagement between stores. So this had been going on for 3 weeks. It was an ARG. It was played on top of reality in their stores during office hours. And after 3 weeks, we had these results. So first of all, I'm looking for it from the perspective of the employees. After 3 weeks, the employees had been actually trained on the floor by actively approaching customers on a day-to-day basis, hour after hour, minute after minute. So they were highly alert. They approached a lot of customers. And because I had the data, I could measure that before the hunt, only 45% of people in stores were greeted. During the hunt, it was 89%, just as one KPI. So they became highly creative. They had a lot of contact with other stores. So there was this vibrant energy going on. So the engagement, employee engagement, was extremely high during the hunt. The other perspective I want to mention are customers. There were customers like you and I who just came into this Halfords store, maybe for a new tire or a car radio, whatever, and all of a sudden they would feel this vibrant energy. They would feel all eyes of all employees toward. They were approach friendly, people took the time, And as a result of that, of course, customers bought more and they had a great customer experience. Third one is the company, Halfords in this case. They were very happy because they had a 4.9% increase in turnover, over 100 stores in 3 weeks. So that would be more than the 100,000 euros they paid me to do this program. So they were very happy. And afterwards, well, because we could measure about everything, we could show the figures. And on employee engagement, they reported high engagement, high energy, and also the NPS score was measured. So it had a big time impact. So this was the first time we did this at Halfords, and quite swiftly afterwards, we started doing this with other companies. Some companies were still reluctant, still wanted to do their training in the old boring way without really knowing what the impact of the training was, or it had no measurable impact. But luckily, since then, 1 or 2 companies a year, they came along, tried out the hunt, and without exaggerating, always with great measurable impact, both on the soft side, the reported engagement, as well as in interactions, in a turnover, all the things that we actually can measure. Since then, we've done this in a lot of cases, not only in Europe, also in South Africa last year, where we did this in a bank, which was quite challenging, by the way, but very interesting. It's the format lent itself very well for retail. So supermarkets are very good, and also for hospitality. If you want to know more about The Hunt, please visit thehunt.com. There are some great videos as to give you a real idea of how this plays out in stores. I think I'll end the story there and leave some room for questions.
That is wonderful, and that's very inspiring, and I would call it a genius, especially if you have these brick phones. That's incredible. One would assume that something called mystery shopping would have an innate gamification into it, but you're probably among the first that actually utilize it. I'm wondering, before we go to the questions of the public, we'll have one that is sidelining, but I would like to ask if you have any measurements, any metrics from after the hand, like 6 months afterward, 1 year afterwards, if the employees trained still had a similar attitude, or if it's only in the heat of the moment while the hunt was...
Yes, of course, that's a great question, and a lot of people ask that. First of all, we have a lot of experience in retail, and turnover in retail is very high. So 50% of the people that work in retail right now, especially young people, will be gone within a year. That's tremendous. It's less so in, let's say, supermarkets, where people tend to work a bit longer. But yeah, of course, we see a great peak during the game and in the week afterwards. But if you would measure it like half a year later, of course, the effects will diminish a little bit. But if you compare that with an average training, then you would still have a very big retention in compared to ordinary training. So the best thing you could do is do it once a year. And with a lot of companies, we do this once a year.
Mm-hmm. So you build a long-term relationship with your clients like that, or how does this work?
Well, not necessarily, because there are a lot of factors involved, but it's asked by a lot of employees, are we going to play the hunt again this year? And in retail, of course, there's this cycle. So every year you will have action during Christmas and autumn. It follows a certain schedule. So they know if it's May, then we're going to play the hunt, right? And actually, it's great because when we do the mystery shopping, we can also check 20 items that need to be checked anyway. So the companies get real-time data which is also interesting. Why not combine those two?
All right. So let's go to a question that is more related to how a mystery shopper would approach you. If you could game with anyone in the world, who would it be and why? That's by Chris.
Okay, that would be a person.
Up to you.
It's up if I could game with. I'd like to game with the Queen of England.
Wow. A game of chess, or she would win. She can move. She can move in all directions. You know.
Probably. Okay. Let's not go into that anymore. Interesting question.
Yeah. And yeah, we have another question by Pitt himself. Did you meet that South African bank at the Gamification Europe event?
Actually, yes. And it's a good question because it's at events like this, and actually was at Gamification Europe, that people can be inspired, just as I am inspired by a lot of talks this week. And you see what's out there, what are people doing? So there's a lot of research. Also today you hear a lot about research and people are very big on that. I'm very much a practitioner. I get my feet in the dirt. So I can tell about what I do in real life and how we apply gamification and learn from that. And I think if companies have cold feet or are not sure about this whole gamification thing, then it's great to have examples. So you get social validation. Oh, that other company already did this and it was a success, or their experiences. So it's great for just to be inspired and get validation from gigs like this to learn and be inspired.
Mm-hmm. And Zomborg says that he would like to copy this method, and if it's copyrighted and all that, but he would of course share their similar challenge if
it's quite
allow that.
It's quite an operation. Of course, yeah, I really endorse you to do. Please do so, or please try so. But as any game designer will tell you, and as any gamification designer will tell you, if you design a game, you've got a lot of variables to play with. And if you want to be successful, you have to tweak it very much. And if you got one element off, for instance, like a house of cards, it can all fall together. So I would very much advise you to work with experienced game-based learning professionals or gamifiers out there, because some of them really are awesome and have like 10, 15 years under their belt. Please use professionals.
And in any case, you can find Michiel at one of our tables afterwards in the coffee break, right?
Directly afterwards.
You're right. Excellent. So thank you very much for the inspiration, Michiel.